So want to welcome you to the stage, everybody. This is Logan over at Luminary Lighthouse. You're on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, any other platforms. People can go to the link tree link in the video description to find you. I advise everybody to go over there and subscribe. I saw this brother's videos on TikTok, and he was just speaking about hidden history or just things that I would say historical anomalies, things that don't fit, given just the common narrative of history in general, especially American history. And so yeah, definitely I want to yield the floor over to you so that you can talk about yourself, let people know about you, and how you came into this information that you're sharing. Peace.
Yeah, well, man, first off, thank you so much, and you've been grateful to send me some books and this and that to learn about, what y'all learn about, man. The Moorish Science Quran. He sent me the Quran, and I started to breeze through it and caught one of the lines, "The only savior of the world is love," and I was like, well, there it is. That's all I needed to know, and that's kind of how I lived my life, have lived my life since I was a kid. I came out really wanting to share love and to help people in any way I could. um fell a little short helping loving myself, you know what I mean, and that's just normal. It's just normal. So kind of went off in a dark direction in my teens. At that time when it was happening, the world just didn't make sense to me. School didn't really make sense. I liked history, but it was just so bland and generic, and I could just tell something was wrong, but I didn't. I thought I was wrong. I thought I was the wrong one. Drugs and alcohol, that whole lane. A lot of us go through. A lot of truthers go through. I can't tell you how many people I've had on my show on Luminary Lighthouse on YouTube, and most of the guys that we do a series called Vibe with the Tribe, most of them are drug addicts and alcoholics. They went down a dark path, but in order to see the light, you got to go through some darkness, right? But and through all that, you end up finding yourself, finding your groove. Finally did. And so I started to read again, and I was like, I'm gonna get back into history, get my what I enjoyed, um, hobbies I enjoyed, and this and that. So when I got sober minded, and could actually sit down and read a book, I started to, and the history was still the way it was when in high school. It just was confusing and it didn't really make sense. I had so many questions that I kept to myself for a very long time. Um, and then I saw a video from on YouTube on my lunch break, which I'm sure you've heard my lunch break before. And then the archivist is another one. He does similar to what I do, and I actually got the idea from him, which is research old newspaper articles. I mean, guys, if you're still on the fence about, alternative history, or as you were saying, the anomalies in history, and that a lot of it is possibly false, go into your local newspaper archives, go into your local university archives, digital archives online, and type in whatever comes to mind. You can start with giants, giant human. That's all. Like in the search bar, you can search in advanced civilization, ancient America, and you're going to be pulling up some crazy stuff because our ancestors were talking about this stuff way before we were. And so I started collecting those, and then
If I
over
could get
over
you to just pause right there,
yeah.
and we'll come right back to where you're speaking on. But just with like what you said, man, looking at old newspaper articles, man, it's crazy that you see like they're talking about finding skeletons where the people were like 14 feet tall,
Bro.
8 feet tall. That happened a lot in my area in Ohio with the
Oh
mounds.
yeah.
Like the giants lived there, and
Hmm.
so yeah, just wild. And people don't even know that this is a real part of history. This is being talked about all over the country. And
Yeah. Yeah.
please continue. Just wanted to.
No, please, please let me know when you want to say something. I'm here for it. I loved going back and forth with you. But yeah, I mean, dude, Ohio is the epicenter of all this. Miamisburg, Ohio. The Serpent Mountain. All those areas are just there's so much there. And yes, they're digging up these mounds and they're finding these giant people, but I think a lot of these mounds that they're not digging into is because there's infrastructure underneath it, or there's stone temples that we see in South America. There's, I mean, they say that in Ohio alone, there's 10,000 mounds, right? Of course, farming and agriculture and all that has kind of erased a lot of them. And I'm sure they found stuff that we didn't hear about. But there's a lot more under those mounds than just giants. And I mean, it's certainly none of that is told to us in our history class, our history books. And I can speak on the Giants thing in a little bit, kind of make a connection to a video I put out, and a gentleman said that he found, not him, but somebody he knew found a 10-foot giant in a place that they were working in, which is a very historical, famous historical marker. So it's still happening today, and it's still happening today. So yeah, and it really, once you start finding these things, oh, here we go. You you look at the world differently. Anytime I'm driving in the country of Texas and I see a mound or a hill or something, I'm like, man, I wonder what's under that hill. That's way more fun way to live your life, right? To see it through. Where is this at?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you mentioned Miamisburg, so we actually had a sermon on the top of that pyramid, that mound
Oh, no
in
way.
Miamisburg, Ohio, and it's just, I mean, the view up there, everything's amazing, and that pyramid, it's a pyramid. I mean, when you're driving up to it, I mean, it's pretty amazing to see. But it's in the middle of a neighborhood, a nice neighborhood, um, and it's surrounded by a golf course. So there's like a
Mm,
golf course
yep.
and kind of like a higher income neighborhood, and there's a public park there. But like if you're just looking for a park to take the children to, you're probably not gonna go there,
Yeah.
unless you know
Right.
somebody that lives there. So yeah,
Exactly.
it's crazy, and
Yeah.
but I definitely recommend people to go to check that out because yeah, it's just an amazing spot to visit. A spiritual epicenter, a spiritual
Yeah.
place, and then also it's just history. The
Yeah.
history of this country is definitely something more to it than what we've all been taught. So yeah, definitely it shouldn't be hidden away, right? The people should know about it. Yeah, so just wanted to give some visuals to what you were speaking on.
Yeah, and I guarantee it, that mound, it's not just built because they threw dirt in one area. It's not built just for burial purposes, although I'm sure civilizations after whoever built that did bury their dead in it. Um, I guarantee it, that thing's on a ley line. There's an energetic line going through that area. That pyramid was harvesting something. It was catching something. It was, had to be some sort of, had not had to be. This is speculation, of course, but there had to be some sort of connection between the etheric world and the world down here. Who knows? Who knows? You could speculate all day, but that's what that's what we do, and it's fun. So I just saw Dwayne Elliott said that they destroyed most of them. Yeah, and they did. And you just mentioned something interesting: the golf courses. Golf courses. It's a way they hide these mounds, man. It's. I have a video on my TikTok. Oh, and by the way, I have Instagram too. I don't know if that was mentioned, but I'm trying to get up on Instagram too. It's hard to do all these at the same time, but some of them fall off. But I have a video on golf courses, and I found, going back to the newspapers, I found a newspaper article that was talking about a golf course in Ohio, I believe it was. I think it was Ohio. I can't remember the name of the town, but it's called, Black Hawk Golf Course or something like that. Like they tell you in the name that it was a there was Indian mounds, and you can see it, like everybody knows that. But there's a lot of golf courses across the nation that people don't know. They just think it's a hill you got to hit your golf ball over, which I'm pretty sure I've played many of those. And I even think of my hometown, like I'm thinking of my golf course in little old, Texas, a little small town. Like, man, is that, there's one irregular hill on the whole golf course. It's massive. It's a huge hill on hole 17. And I'm like, I wonder if that's one, you know what I mean? And again, it's fun to look at the world that way, right? I
Oh
would have
yeah,
never
yeah,
looked at the world that way if I kept the tunnel vision and just believed what I was taught. You know what I mean?
yeah, man. If I mean, we're the ones that have to do it. We have to change the way history is taught. We It's not going to happen if we don't force the issue. But yeah, definitely. I mean, it just would have been way more interesting. You would have had a lot less people tuning out, during history class and science and
No
everything
doubt.
else, because everything is affected by these lies that are being perpetrated, things that are being hidden. It's like, look, like you were speaking about, there is a town. I believe you may have been talking about Moundsville, Ohio, which is a crazy name.
Moundsville's one. Moundsville's
Yeah,
one. Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
and they have, like you were saying, they have the golf courses there where there are several mounds and it's in the golf course, and so obviously everybody's not going to be able to get in there and check it out. But yeah, it's crazy, and
Oh, I remember. I remember now. It was called Newark. Newark.
oh yeah,
Newark, Ohio, right? Is that Ohio? I'm not too sure, but
yeah. So yeah, in Newark, Ohio, they have the earthworks. There's like a big, huge wall. There's like they're in
yes.
geo.
Yeah, it's a circle.
Yeah, so there's a circle, and then there's some other geometric designs, right, that
Yep.
are mounds. And yeah, so there's no real work being done to actually understand or even try to explain it. We have the serpent mounds and some other things out here too. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot, man.
A whole lot.
And it's like, hey, don't even worry about that. That's what we're told, if it's even talked about in school at all.
Yeah, it's funny how explain how it was done. Well, they must have had, 2,000 people with baskets bringing this dirt. How they try to tell you the logistics of it, and it's kind of like how I'm going to talk about the Texas State Capitol in my presentation, and we'll talk about a little bit of the historical anomalies, like we were saying, the falsifications that maybe happened in our past, in our past and in Texas's past. When I first saw these theories that are thrown out there, I wanted to debunk them. So I went and tried to like debunk them, the conspiracy theories, and I kept losing, taking L after L, and then the main place that I was finding a lot of this information to coexist with it, with this being a conspiracy, was again newspaper archives. So here, let me. You want me to go ahead and just get it rolling, or
Oh yeah,
the
sure.
presentation?
Go ahead and bring that up on the screen, and let's get
Let
things
me see.
going.
Let me see. This is my first time using this, people. So let's see if I can get this going.
And while you get that up, I just want to ask everybody that's watching here to click like and share this video. Help to spread this information, spread the light. There's people all over that are looking for this type of information, and even with the internet, they still don't know where to look. So it helps, if your friend or family members the one sharing it. So everyone, hit like, hit share. Here we go. All right.
Cool. Let me see if I can put this over here and then put you over. Well, I lost your face. Hold on. Here we go. How do I take away the like comment side? The little comment tab.
Oh, for you on the side, I'm not sure. I
I don't
think
know if I can.
if you
It's all good,
click
dude.
on now, if you click,
It's not a big deal. I'm just being picky. I can roll with this. This is perfect. Is everything up?
yeah, yeah. So your slides are up. We're still up here on the screen too.
Okay, cool. Um, so yeah, well, let me get a little bit of water here. So, like I was saying, I try to debunk all of these things that I talk about now, and I'm addicted to talking about. It's my new addiction. I like this one a whole lot more than my old addiction. Let's say that. Um, but so the title of this is that don't fit. I've got some videos on my social media page that they're kind of comical, but they also give some insight onto the stuff that I'm digging into. And the phrase "that don't fit" certainly fits a lot of the anomalies that we see. You know, you just, I mean, for one, like I was just saying, the Texas State Capitol, it just don't fit. You know what I mean? It was built in the 1880s, and I'll show you that. You know, the lead up to it being built is very odd and just very all over the place. And so I've made videos of where I show things that don't seem to really fit in the environment that they show us it's in. You know, that it is in, and the narrative that it fits in. You know, that they've fitted onto that structure or whatever, or mound, or whatever historical site that don't fit. So Texas edition, a speculative look beneath the official narrative. And yeah, I just want to say thanks again for this. I haven't done a slideshow in a while. This is maybe my second or third one. So I'm excited to hopefully get comfortable one day doing these because they're really fun, but it's a little difficult at times. But um, so before we get into the Texas Capitol, I want to just show why I started questioning early Texas history in the first place. We'll move from LaSalle, right? That supposedly settled in Texas, one of the first settlers, or if the first, is the first settler. And early Texas stories, the Alamo and some other stuff. And then we'll go into Austin's beginnings, then into the Capitol itself, the money, the fire, of course, always a fire in these narratives, the land deal, the construction photos, and the furniture problem, which might sound kind of funny, and it's because it is funny, but you'll see. And why this building feels completely out of place for the city around it. Okay, so we'll start with what I just said, LaSalle. Okay, so this gentleman, and I'm not going to try to say his first name because I'm going to butcher it, but you know what I'm talking about, LaSalle, the French explorer. Um, that man was linked to seven, or I think seven forts over a 7 or 8 year period. So, I mean, he's going by boat from France over here, building all of these forts along the way down the Mississippi, then goes back to France, okay, then comes all the way to my hometown area, which is Matagorda Bay, and he built Fort St. Louis, okay. I'm I know my Texans in here will know about Fort St. Louis, but I'm sure y'all were taught that. Everybody else in the nation was taught that as well. But we were really taught it. And in my county, I'm in Matagorda County. If you see right there, Matagorda Bay, that's where he landed. Matagorda County Museum would have a bunch of LaSalle stuff and this and that. And I'm not denying that there was, a gentleman that came into Matagorda Bay during that time period and this and that. But there's parts of the story that don't fit, right? Um, a lot of these, so a lot of these forts that he did build are gone now. I think there's just two of them around. So Fort St. Louis, and the
Oh,
narrative,
real quick before you
yeah,
move on, just a little humor.
please.
Is Matagordy? Is that Kill Fatty?
Matagorda.
Matagordy? Okay,
What?
just no, just asking about that name. It sounds like in Spanish. That's Kill Fatty or something like that.
Oh, you're talking about Gorda. Yeah,
Matagordy.
Gorda
Yeah, yeah.
is yeah. Yeah, so Gorda, Gorda, I think is fatty or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Wonder
well,
how they came up with that name.
what's funny is like they made shirts that were short for Matagorda, like Gorda, and the county would buy them. Well, all the white people had no clue what that actually mean. They were
Yeah.
getting laughed at for wearing Gorda on their
Wow.
shirts. Uh, so okay, let's see. So yeah, all these forts are extremely. Oh, I'm from Bay City. What? What's up, sweets? I'm from Bay City, Texas. '09, dude. Bay City Black Cats. Sorry. Um, yeah, so a lot of these forts, the forts that he settled and built, and all the other Spanish amigos that came over, they're all, they say that they were struggling to survive. It was built of wooden planks, and they had to fight off the Indians. There was war, disease, and then they were all killed. It's the same thing everywhere. And then these forts in the northern parts are like, it was a fur trading post, and it was a stop in between a stop. I mean, all of them say very similar stuff. So let's read the narrative on Fort St. Louis. Fort St. Louis was said to have been made from timber salvaged from the ships and whatever supplies the struggling colonists had left. It was a rough frontier outpost with wooden structures, a stockade, storehouses, and living quarters. So exactly what I was just saying. Pretty simple. Wooden planks as the photo says, like wooden planks holding up the walls and this and that. And they had a stockade too around there, but then I find this article, and it's actually the discovery of when they found LaSalle's colony in, right at Matagorda Bay in Texas. So that description of what the narrative we get today is not what this article says of these gentlemen that discover it. So LaSalle's colony in Texas, ruins of their buildings may still be found, but the spot is a wild and lonely as when the discoverer landed there after his fruitless search for the mouth of the Mississippi. So, and I kind of think that if you know what star forts are, right, and a lot of these forts, Fort Monroe, you know, all the one in South Carolina, Fort Jefferson out into the Gulf of Mexico, those are star forts, right? And I'm pretty sure Fort St. Louis was a star fort as well, which would mean that it is made of stone or brick. And this article kind of solidified it for me. So he's talking about finding these ruins. At one point, just in the edge of a little glade, which was doubtless at one time a cultivated field, there are the ruins of a very large stone building connected by a wall of rough, undressed stone. Right off the bat, going against the narrative. Nobody said anything about stone with the main part. This must have been a building of considerable dimensions and was either a church or the commander's residence. Many of the huge rocks that are now lying on the ground about the great door are covered with names, dates, and French words, few of which can be deciphered. Lobel's name, Belfort, and the date 1686 can be seen in several places. It is supposed that Belfort was the engineer or architect, and I think he's actually talking about Bugeaud, or something like that. He was the naval commander, so I think that's who he's talking about. I don't believe there was a Belfort on the boat, so I could be wrong. And then it says down here, and this is the one that really kind of blew my mind: turning north from the ruins of the church or castle. So, but he's calling it, like, these ruins of Fort St. Louis a church or a castle. So if you know what a castle looks like, that's not exactly what they're telling us this looked like, right? So it's
Yeah. So
obviously,
just if I could just interject one thing,
please.
just like so, the settlers are building out of like wood and just whatever they can make do with, but they're finding ruins that are made out of stone. Now, like it just like most people will just gloss over this or act like there's nothing to see here. But what you actually have is people at the time, they're just describing what they see before a later decision comes about to, hey, we need to cover stuff like this
There
up.
you go.
People
There
are
you go.
just telling what they see, telling
Yep.
it like it is.
hmm Yeah, and that's what the 19th century was. I mean, all those people in the 19th century were going out to discover what the heck was here. They didn't, this is a lot of land. They were trying to figure out who was here, what was here, what did they build, where is it, all this stuff. So when they were cataloging it correctly. For the most part, right? Of course, there's probably a lot of, over exaggeration and this and that, like there always is. But it's not like somebody's making this story up. I mean, this is what he saw, and it goes completely against the narrative. It does. And so they talk about that there's 200 or 300 people that could live there for 5 or 6 years, sustaining themselves. So that's a big community. 200 to 300 people could have lived in this castle or church. And who knows what it really looked like, but just from the words that he used, it's a lot different than what we're taught. So this is also a completely different part that we're told too. The Spanish governor was astounded at the evidence of the former prosperity of the colony. So the Spanish governor, if you remember, found they were looking for LaSalle in the French colony at Fort St. Louis. And once the Spanish did get there, this article says they were astounded at the evidence of the former prosperity of the colony. Well, if you read the narrative today, it says there was basically nothing there. There was some dead people and some, sticks that were that were the house, and that the Karankawa Indians just obliterated everything. And so that right there is completely opposite of what we're told. And these are the articles that make me go, okay, well, there might be something to this. Like, and you keep looking, and you dig deeper and deeper and deeper. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so this next one is shout out to Clyde Winters, because he sealed this one for me, and I actually, I texted you. I found him on your show and bought his books. But the French, right? The fleur de lis, the symbol, the fleur de lis, right here. You can see it up here. That is said to be French. It's a French symbol, right? Well, find Aztec relics, gold molds buried in Mexico are unearthed. One of the most remarkable discoveries in archaeology and ethnology of prehistoric tribes made recently near, not going to try to say that word if I already messed up the other. But so what he finds in these Aztec relics is, among the hair ornaments are designs of the fleur de lis, which I was never told that the Aztecs, had used the fleur de lis. The first time such a pattern has been found among any of the Indian tribes of the New World, according to Professor Niven, who is making an extensive study of the collection. Among the most interesting patterns discovered is one for a huge breastplate, evidently of silver. This is rectangular in shape, 18 by 12 inches, with a large number of places for the inset of precious stones. Da 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 da. So none of that. What we just, I mean, of course, the precious stones we're told that the Aztecs had, and this and that, but not a breastplate, a huge breastplate, evidently of silver, and not the fleur de lis. Are you familiar with that symbol and where it was in the world?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we love going to New Orleans, so just in saying that, we see the Fleur de Lis all the time. Of course, the New Orleans Saints, and just yeah, yeah. So we're familiar with that symbol, but we're given the same narrative that you spoke of, that it comes from Europe, comes from France,
The
something like
French, yeah,
yeah,
just from the French, and
yeah.
here we got it in Aztec, Aztec ruins. And what I was reading from Clyde Winters was that the Aztecs have a connection with the Mandi tribe in Africa, which makes a lot of sense from the heads that they found, the Olmec heads. Obviously there's a connection there one way or another. So the fleur de lis is obviously was a it's like the swastika. You could find that all over the place, and it meant completely opposite of what we're told today. I'm going to try to rush through these so we can get to the actual to the capital part, because I'm taking too long, I think. But so another falsification in Texas history is that they don't tell us this in the story, but they found tunnels that connected the Alamo in the middle of San Antonio, the Alamo, and connected all 5 missions in San Antonio from north to south. So the Alamo's kind of in the middle. It's the second one down, okay, from the most northern mission. And it basically, those missions line up from north to south. Well, they find a tunnel 9 miles long that connects all of these missions. Okay, the tunnel goes under the San Antonio River multiple times with stone steps. They say in this article that it was made by the Spanish monks for safe passage, which I'm going to beg to differ on that one. And you hear so many tunnel stories. I mean, there's so many historical sites that have a labyrinth underneath it. There's so many cities that have labyrinths underneath it. This obviously points to, in my eyes, and some sort of advanced civilization being here. The ruins that they found that was supposed to be LaSalle's, wooden post, seems like there was an advanced civilization here, previously. These are all pointing to the fact that are, pointing to that our history is very bland, like I was saying at the beginning, and I couldn't get on board with because it just bland and watered down. And it's been the same thing for so many years. You would think if they knew tunnels were under the Alamo, that would be a groundbreaking discovery, and everybody would know that story, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it kind of goes against, a lot of the Texas battles, the Battle of the Alamo. If they would have known about the tunnels, I think they would have escaped, right? But
Yeah. Yeah. And just going back to that, just with the way the history is taught, it's so that we won't even have like the desire to look any further because it just turns you off. It's like, man, it's boring. It's
yep,
there's no interest in it. And yeah, I think like definitely it's something that affects people across any perceived boundaries or barriers that we would have if we're looking at different ethnicities, religions, whatever. No, this turns us off in general.
yep,
It just turns humanity off. So yeah, definitely this is incredible to see and hear about. And just because the monks may have been using these tunnels, right, doesn't
yeah,
mean they built them. It's like how did they even do it? How could they
yeah.
excavate it? Where's the manpower? They had slaves doing it. Like, come on. So
Of
this,
course,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It
crazy,
makes you
man.
really giggle now when you go back on these to these narratives and read what they what they tell you that these tunnels are there. Why they tell you these tunnels are there. Because I mean, a
Exactly.
lot of them are silly. A lot of them are silly, and that's kind of what I'm showing. Before I get to the Capitol, I want to show some other anomalies in Texas history that are just very off. So when we get to the Texas Capitol, and I say maybe that thing was already there, it doesn't sound a little too crazy to some beginners, because I always try to come at my videos and the stuff that I'm putting out for beginners and for the people that have been around for a while. Like, I want to ease it in. I don't want to drop too much on one person and lose them. So excuse me, veterans, if this is stuff you might know, but we got some beginners. I guarantee you that'll watch this, but eventually, or right now. So I'll go through this really quick. This next one, this is a video of mine. It is the Great Wall, the unknown Great Wall of Texas. It's on my YouTube page. People know the Rock Wall in Rockwall, Texas. It was a prehistoric wall that was found. It was 40 feet high. That's the farthest they got down was 40 feet high, but and that's really well known, the Rock Wall and Rockwall, right? But I found these articles that found more rock walls and temples and all sorts of stuff in central Texas. So quite a ways from where Rockwall is, which is up by Dallas, DFW area, east of Dallas. So this one was in Malam County. It was read the title, a wall in Texas 20 miles long and almost as massive as the Chinese wall. I mean, think about that. A wall in Texas 20 miles long and almost as massive as the Chinese wall. Like I said, I would love to go through all this a little deeper, but I'm going to get to the Capitol. And this area where this wall was found, and I hypothesize that this is part of that wall and this mound right here, because look how flat it is in the background. But this is actually where the Tonkawa Indians, their origin story, is from. Is right where this mound or this possible wall was found at. And I like how they have a crescent in their in their symbol, the Tonkawa Indians. That might point to something too. But let's go ahead and go, and if you're interested in this, please go to my YouTube channel. Type in the unknown Great Wall of Texas. There's a couple of findings that we find. This one's another one, but we're gonna go ahead and get to Austin, Texas, and start talking about what's the weirdness that's in ATX. Anything you want to add on, or we good to go?
Oh no, I'm just listening in. You're doing a great job sharing the info. Definitely, I think it'll be great just to go ahead and go to the Capitol and yeah,
Cool.
man. No, but it's great that you didn't just jump out there talking about stuff that's going to be too hard for people to even conceive of,
Yeah,
right?
lose
Yeah, I
people.
think definitely need to ease into it.
Yeah, it's easy. It's very easy to do, and I think a lot of the people in our community can do that very quickly. Um, and I just want to, because I know the people in my life that don't know I do this will come and find it at some point. So I want to really, state my case. I want to show you the information. I want to have the receipts. But I tend to talk a little, a little too long on them. So, but okay. So here, yeah, now that we have seen how messy early Texas history can be, let's bring it to Austin. So this is supposedly Austin in 1844. First wooden frame capitol was built in 1839. I believe that's it up there, or it's this one. That might be the governor's mansion. But so you see this 1844 photo. That's supposedly what Austin looked like. Then you think about it, 40 years later is when the behemoth we have today. And I know y'all have had to have seen, we'll get to it, but I know you've had to seen the Texas Capitol. It's bigger than the, American Capitol in Washington, D.C. So it's a big old boy. So if you think of Austin being this way, and then 40 years later, that being there, it's already getting a little weird. It's already in the realm of that don't fit. And I don't know why that's such a wide main avenue, and also these town lots that they first lay down. Austin was the woods. Then they say, you know what? I want to build a capital, Austin, Texas here. And then this is the first grid that they put down. It's almost like there was already a city there, right? Why did they build such a huge grid? Don't you start
Yeah,
small? I mean,
yeah,
see, you know what I mean? Um, so yeah, why make a town layout so giant when there's under 500 people? It might be even less than that. And then Texas probably has maybe 50,000. Why are you already building a town for tens of thousands of people? It's almost like there's people, there's infrastructure there. So Texas has gone through some weird stuff just financially. So debt, land claims, surplus, public institutions. This is where the reset pattern starts to look real to me, and it's a common theme across the board in every state. So, this is in the 1850s. So a little bit after that photo I just showed you. Texas was $10 million in debt. Okay, they were $10 million in debt, and then they sold. This is when Texas was a lot bigger, right? They sold what would be present day New Mexico, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, Wyoming in exchange for $10 million, okay, from the federal government. So right off the bat, they're needing money in the 1850s. They're really needing money, and immediately when they get that money, they pay off the debt. Then they use the three million surplus, and listen to what they build right off the bat. And this is in every city across the nation. Okay, with that 3 million, they begin a permanent public school fund, construct a new capitol, which is the capitol right before the one you see today, a governor's mansion, and a hospital for the insane. Let me say that last one again, a hospital for the insane.
yeah.
Like,
If I could get you to pause right there,
yeah, bro.
just with that, like a lot of those insane asylums, like all over the country, a lot of those insane asylums look like castles, like immaculate, humongous buildings, stone buildings. But I was just throwing that in there.
No, they are. Dude. They're straight up castles, straight up castles. And like in California, California didn't become a state until 1850. 1851, just like this in Texas, 1851 they build their first insane asylum. 1 year after it's a state. What are you doing? Why do you need that insane asylum there? And as I'm sure your crowd knows, I mean, there was a lot of people in those insane asylums. I mean, some of them could fit thousands of, 1,000, 2,000 people, and they were maxed out. They were overflowing. Were these the people that were, here before this narrative, this timeline was released to the population? I mean, it's so obvious once you start to get into the insane asylums, information that something else is going on. Um, so anyways, this starts to talk about the capital that they built in the 1850s with that 3 million surplus, but just an odd turn of events right there, from them, being in debt, then getting money from selling land, then using it to buy a capital governor's mansion and insane asylum, like, and a public
Yeah, and
school,
that's crazy because like just like in society, in this society in general, like some people a lot of times, like if they have like an inheritance or potential inheritance, they'll try to get that person declared mentally unstable. Say it's an older person, everybody's waiting around like vultures waiting on them to pass away. They're gone. They're mentally they can't handle it anymore. So
Yeah.
maybe, I mean, that's just just a random thought. I guess you could say that
Yeah.
maybe, that has something to do with these finances just coming out of nowhere. If you're getting the people who live there, you know, institutionalized, and now you're taking over everything that they had.
Yeah, they're going crazy. Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the reasons why these people got into the insane asylum, it's reading books. I'm not playing, reading books. It's girl problems. It's excuse me, but excessive masturbation was one. I was like, oh my Lord, I would have gone in there at 13 years old for sure. You know what I mean? But there's a ton of reasons that are just they're ridiculous. They're bonkers. There's no reason why anybody should be called insane for these common things that people do. And what it sounds like is they just needed reasons to get people in the insane asylum to trap them in there. Um, and so, but yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole. I could talk about that for hours. So with that 3 million surplus, they build the second capital, the one right before the one we see today, and this is it. Now I don't know if you've seen look at early cities photographs, but there ain't nobody there. There ain't nobody there. All of these 18, let's say 60s, 70s, 80s. I mean, there's hardly anybody there, and there's always some rubble in the middle of the road. Like, I mean, it just looks like they just made this set right now. Like this is like a movie set. It's just the weirdest thing. I can't get enough of these kinds of photos. Um, but whited out sky. It looks like they're it was purposely whited out. But anyways, I won't go too dark too deep into that one. Um, and of course, this courthouse had its typical destruction, fire. And if you get into this research long enough, you know that there are fires all over the place. Not only the great fires, you can look at your little local city museum and it looks like an old world structure. Guarantee it had a fire. It's all over the place. It's just repetitive. It's almost like a AI spit out all of these narratives that go to different structures like this because it's so repetitive. But look how old this structure looks. This was supposedly built in the 1850s. This can't be too far after. Look at the stairs, how much older it is than the structure. I mean, the structure even looks old. This driveway right here, and then like who are these guys that can just chill on the fence of the second Texas state capitol? So and down here it kind of talks about the fire that happened. I'm going to skip a little forward. So, but here's a photo of the fire. It was a shell, just complete shell. Also a common theme. A lot of these great fires, they like Chicago. Mrs. O'Leary's cow, you know, kicked a lantern, right? And the lantern starts the Chicago fire, Great Fire of 1871. Well, you look at all these buildings and it looks like bombs have just gone off. I mean, like this, the roof's off. Like, I mean, it doesn't look like fire destruction that I've actually seen. And this little excerpt right here talks about the fire. This was in the paper, and it really gets really deep and like very descriptive. It's almost like they're, trying to mold the minds of what happened to the public, right? But uh, so that was the end of that. That was the end, and I guess that was probably only, let's see, 20 years. This capital somewhere around there was around. So they built a temporary capital. This is the temporary capital. It burned too. The temporary capital burned. Another fire. Okay, it happens over and over again, over and over again. So we'll get into the lead up of the Capitol today. Okay, but just wanted to show you the fire incidences because that really sets the stage for the big behemoth we have. So before they even started to build the Capitol, they had to make some deals. And this is what's weird is that this huge granite structure, massive structure, this is how it came to be. Okay, this is how that structure came to be. You would never really think of this is how it came to be, but it is. Okay, 1875, the Constitution of 1876 authorized the use of 3 million acres of public land in the Texas Panhandle to pay for a new capital. The capital syndicate, including John and Charles Farwell from Chicago, paid for the construction of the present-day Capitol in exchange for the land, which became the famous XIT Ranch. So basically, you know, they state of Texas couldn't afford a capital, so they gave land, 3 million acres of land, to this syndicate. They call them the Capital Syndicate, John and Charles Farrell, to build that capital. Um, it's just an odd, like, what? Why did they have to do that? You know what I mean? Um, very weird, events. Let's see what's. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, wouldn't you think they would start small if you can't afford it? So there's one of my notes, like, okay, if you can't afford a capital, then why don't you start small? All right, work your way up there. But no, they had to give this 3 million acres away and build the behemoth you see today, right? And then the architect with this state capital of Texas is one of those mysterious architects of the 19th century. Okay, his name's Elijah E. Myers, and he did the Michigan state capital. He did the Colorado state capital. This is a freaking high school, Grand Rapids High School. I don't know about you, man, but how'd your high school look? Did it look like this at all, or?
Yeah, nothing like that. I mean, none of the schools that I went to at all looked like that. Not even a university.
No, not even exactly today. And then, City Hall, Richmond, Virginia, very Moorish inside, very Moorish structure. Uh, Michigan State, that's an insane asylum. Pontiac Insane Asylum. He's one of those mysterious architects that did so much stuff in such a little bit of time.
Yeah,
And even with the Texas State Capitol, he wasn't hardly even on site. And you'd think with a huge structure like that, that architect had to be there day after day after day to really direct everybody. But the man wasn't here. And the man must have not taken a bunch of pictures, because this is the only one I can find. But
yeah, that's insane because it says, yeah, he developed state capitals: Michigan, Texas, Colorado, Idaho, and Utah, and the
yep,
parliament buildings at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And it wasn't easy to get around like that in the 1800s, man.
no.
So it's like, yeah, that's why.
It was one year after another. He was going off to this one, and then he would, it would get the building would go up, he'd go off to the next one. And then the last one says he did the World's Fair building in Chicago in 1893. Now the World's Fair is kind of, in my eyes, the beginning of this timeline we're in, the beginning of the narrative that they rolled out. Chicago's World Fair was the Columbian Exposition, Christopher Columbus, right? Kind of like LaSalle. They're sending out all of these narratives to the world, and saying, look, come to Chicago, we'll show you everything you need to know about the world. And then it's in all the newspapers, all the magazines, and that's how they kind of molded the minds. That's kind of how they molded the minds. So, and hypothetically, this is all speculative. Wasn't there. I wasn't there. So this is a construction photo, supposedly. Looks very weird to me, but this is before, after the second Capitol caught fire, leveled it. This is right before construction photo. So it says, photograph of the construction site for the current Capitol building, constructed 1881 to 1888. Views is from the Travis County Courthouse, which, if we have time, we can see in a little bit. The Travis County Courthouse, right across from the Capitol, is just as ridiculous. It's smaller, but it's just as ridiculous. And this is all speculation, but just the photos. I've stared at these 19th century photos for maybe too long, and some of them really look like small miniature display replicas. I mean, they look, the sizing is off. It's just, they're so odd. They're so odd, and I don't know what to make of it. And like I said, this is all speculative, but like, where's the chaos? This is the beginning of construction. Where's the construction chaos? Where's everybody at?
Yeah.
Where's the freight
How's the
hauling stuff?
grass? How's the grass so short? Did they have lawnmowers in the 1800s? Like,
No,
how were
hell
they
no,
even
they
cutting
didn't.
the grass, man?
Yeah, it is pretty manicured, isn't it? That's funny. Uh, okay, so and then we'll get into the kind of now the building of it, the actual building, and it's just as crazy. The masons and the um, prisoners that helped quarry the stone. The same story we hear every capital, guys. This is every capital. They'll have prisoners quarrying the stone, shaping the stone, sending it in to stone cutters, probably not domestic, imported from somewhere else. That's what happened. I mean, it's all over the place, this same story. So The state capitol you see today, Texas State Capitol, was convict labor was used at the granite quarry. The granite quarry was 60, 70 miles away. Okay, so they had to, train it back and forth. Prisoners helped quarry and shape the Capitol stones. So these prisoners, these guys in chains, they're in chains, were were making the, getting the stone out from the quarry, shaping it, and putting it on rail and sending it. So the free stone cutters, not the prisoners, these are, free men stone cutters, protested the use of prison labor. So they were protesting. They're like, why don't you hire local Texas stone cutters? Why are you using, prisoners? We need jobs too. So the union workers boycotted the Capitol job. When American workers pushed back, the contractor imported Scottish granite cutters. So he said, I'm just going to get them from Scotland. Screw the local people. This is all like drama in the middle of this, like this palace that they're about to build. You know. Let's see. So the contractor was later hit with 65,000 federal fine. So this Texas monument was built through prison labor, imported labor, and labor conflict. Wouldn't a harmonious structure such as the Texas State Capitol require harmonious hands? That's I mean, that's all you need to hear. Wouldn't you think that that structure, that as harmonious as it is, wouldn't you think the people that built it needed to be harmonious in their minds and harmonious with each other? I mean, we're not like prisoners don't do that. But, nothing against prisoners, guys, but like, and it's in a time frame when this is hammer and chisel, baby. This we ain't got no drills. This isn't happening. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like something would have been done to kind of either derail it or just a sign of protest would be in there. Like with
yeah,
the statues and some of the cathedrals and stuff in Europe. You seen where they have like the little angels are like doing obscene things that you
yep,
wouldn't know
yep.
unless you're actually looking at these statues. So these are like maybe kind of little acts of protest to show that hey, this isn't what you think it is. So yeah, yeah. If you're not seeing that, who's actually doing
Yeah,
it? Who
right.
is it?
Exactly. It doesn't it don't fit, right? It's another it just don't fit. And I mean, look at these blocks. Look at this guy right here. How big these blocks of stone. This is the Capitol right here. I mean, this is big stone. This is big stone.
Yeah, I
And
mean you don't see that today. Some of the buildings may look like that, but it's all like plaster. It's just
mhm,
they put the cast on there that looks like it's brick or stone, but it's actually not.
exactly. Yeah, they can make it look, really real today, right?
Yeah.
but behind the mask, you know what it is. So here's some photos of the actual quarrying. Here's the chain gang right here, right, of prisoners. They're on Granite Mountain. Granite Mountain is an abnormal mountain of granite out in the middle of central the hill country, central Texas. Look it up if you've never seen it. It's quite the anomaly. I don't really know what to think of it, but it's just a huge. I mean, it was the Indian tribes in the area were. There was stories of spirits and this and that, but so these are the chain gangs supposedly quarrying. Here they are shaping the stone. I mean, look at these blocks, guys, and we're talking about wooden pulleys, like rope, and they're on the wooden pulleys. That's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight, and I'm sure they could transport granite. I can guarantee it. They probably could, but the amount of granite. We're about to look into it. 1884 was a busy year. So you ready for this? Built logistical chain and transferred all that material. So the capital, it says, was started 1881, 1882. I typically see 1882. So in 1884, the railroad built 6 miles of track between Coons and the quarry at Oatmanville at a cost to the building contractor of $35,000 for grading and bridging, while the International and Greater Northern spent $24,100 for rails and cross ties. Before the end of 1884, nearly 280,000 cubic feet of limestone had been delivered from Oatmanville Quarry. The rail line was abandoned in 1888, so just got rid of it after they built the whole thing. But in 1 year, they built the railroad. Okay, and this railroad was extensive. and this isn't a couple of, train loads, wagon loads. 280,000 cubic feet is big. And I actually put it into some, so you can actually picture this. But so on a football field, including the end zones, it would cover the whole football field almost 5 feet deep. That's how much stone this is. So, I mean, it's a lot of a lot of stuff, a lot of stone, and
Just to add one
yeah.
more thing to this, right? With the common narrative, I guess you could say on history, all this stuff is happening like less than 2 decades after the Civil War. So the South is supposed to be all
Thank you.
stressed and poor, doesn't have the infrastructure, but all of a sudden it's a big deal to make these grand designs, and we have to get this done and do it fast, and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how many people it takes to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. Yeah, and like why is like Greek revival and all these architecture styles, like why are they so popular right now? Like like you said, I thought y'all were poor, dude. Like why do you care about what architectural style it is? And if we get to it, you'll find that before this capital, there was already some outrageous things going on in Austin and in Texas, across the nation, as you know. But and an insane asylum is one of them, and it looks like a freaking castle, like you were saying. So this is 1885. So let's go back real quick. I'm gonna have to. So 1884, they're saying they built the railroad to the quarry right here. All right, quarrying it from scratch, sending it to Austin. Okay, 280,000 cubic feet of limestone. 1884. That's in 1 year. They do all that, transfer all the stone. This is 1885, okay? That's the Capitol right here. Looks pretty done. You can tell on the side right here, the dome's not done. This is the temporary Capitol that would eventually burn, that from the second one burning, they built this one and then this one burned. But so that was just, I mean, is this 1 year later? This is what the title of this photo was 1885. They're telling us that they did all of that quarrying, bring all the stone over, and then only 3 years from when it began, this is already sitting here. Three years after it started, and then 1 year after all the stone was brought to the site, this is already sitting here like this. You know what I'm saying? Am I explaining that okay?
Yeah, and if they did this, that many years ago when the technology wasn't as high, and they're able to move this fast, like, come on, yeah,
It's you said it. Come on, it just doesn't. It don't make sense. And even if this photo, maybe this photo's off, but clearly, there's not a whole lot done. I mean, there is a whole lot done, but the whole dome isn't done. So maybe it's 1886, maybe it's 87. Who knows? But still, people, there's just no way you could do that quick. You just can't do it. Um. So these are the. Oh, excuse me. Were you saying something?
No, I was gonna ask if you have any pictures of the inside of the Capitol,
I
because it's
do.
like, okay, yeah, yeah, people need to
You,
see that because,
you
like,
want to you want to see it right now?
sure, sure,
Yeah, cool. Let me go to it and see if uh
yeah, I think people,
yes.
yeah, definitely need to see the insides. You're showing these pictures of these people who are maybe unskilled laborers. They're paid,
So can you
what,
see that?
yeah, yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
actually, the grand finale, like the end of this, the main part that's really weird is about the inside. And so let me just go ahead and so I'll talk about the outside, when it's finished and stuff, and we'll get to the inside part too. I'll go ahead and like get to that part. How does
all
that
right,
sound?
yeah, yeah, let's do that.
Okay, cool. So you saw how quickly it just appeared. Oh, and by the way, last one on this. These are the workers, the stonecutters. The builder Gustav Wilk imported workers to cut granite for the capital, right? He said from Ireland. They're Irish. They were promised up to $6 a day, but they were paid less than $1 a day upon arrival. Who the hell and what kind of worker is going to accept that? Say, all right, he said six, but he's going to give me one. Let's build this. Let's build this Atlantean temple, dog. I'm down. I'm down with the
Yeah,
cause, and I'm Irish, so I don't even live
yeah,
here.
like,
Like,
in real life, if that happened, they would have burned everything down.
dude, just down, bro. They
Yeah,
would do it. That would happen today in like a split second. The person wouldn't even get it out of their mouth that they were paying them that much
yeah,
less. I mean, So here's another construction photo. Where's the construction chaos? Where the heck are the people? It just doesn't look like a live construction site. It looks, and even the sizing of these little houses up here to the, just something's really off. Something's really off on these photos. Of course, you do have photos like this one that people can maybe, all right, well, but that's all, that's completely done almost. I mean, there's like, the dome and some of the roof is off. It almost seems like dismantling at some, more than construction photo. Um, so, and then it says this, the stone wasn't just, oh, the iron wasn't just any stone. In 1887, the iron wasn't just any iron. In 1887, the dome featured a system of iron braces along with wrought iron framework imported from Belgium. So not any, we ain't gonna get no, iron from here, dude. We got to get it from Belgium. They painted the external metal panels to match the Capitol's granite. I mean, it's just from one extravagant thing to another. I always like showing this picture because this is a introduction to the president. So the president was in Austin. So they made this sign, and then there's the Atlantean temple in the background, the palace. So I like to
Yeah,
always say the same civilization that made that sign
yeah,
also made that in the background, right? Just kind of, I like
yeah, yeah.
comparisons. I like comparisons.
And it's like these are the same people who are making the saloons and stuff. People see the old West style little,
Exactly.
little bars and
Yeah.
stuff. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the saloon line is the Wild West thing is not, yeah. There's not a whole lot of truth. I'm sure there were saloons and prostitutes and stuff and guns blazing, but there was a lot of different infrastructure than what we're told. It wasn't, a wooden saloon. But that's a whole nother story for another day. Okay, now this next slide, and then and then the following one will be the inside. But this next slide, really think about this, okay? This is so slept on, okay? Can you imagine after this was done, this being in a town in 1888 with 15,000 people, okay? And that's how big Austin was. How does a small town of around 11,000 people end up with one of the largest Capitol buildings in America? And people will go, oh, well, they gave the land to the people and they turned it into a ranch. And they go, but no, why? Why all of that? And why did all of the builders have some sort of, whatever, animosity, chaos, whatever? I mean, none of it leads up to looking at this thing and saying, oh, yeah, I can see how they did that. And then when it is there and you look at Austin around and it having down here, it says 1880, 11,000 people, 1890, only 14,000 people. I mean, I'm from a small town in Bay City, with 15,000 people. If that thing was in the town, everybody would be freaking out. Like, why do we even have this? What is this here for?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Not
yeah.
to
Because
mention it's horse and buggy.
even just the maintenance on
Yeah,
keeping that up. I
yeah,
mean, if you have a house, you have to take care of it, or it falls apart. So just the maintenance on that,
yeah.
that takes a lot of manpower to keep that, looking decent and not falling apart.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got it. So here's the inside, and this is quite funny to me, especially when you see the pictures. Where's the furniture? Is what this section will be called. So they build this giant granite tipple, but when the furnishings and the interior situation looks delayed, underfunded, mismatched, and almost improvised, they literally get to the end of building it and go, well, where's the furniture at? Literally. So if you want to look into this, this is take a screenshot. This is where it comes from, the information I'm about to read. And this isn't from just some random blog or something. This is from the Southwestern Historical Quarterly. Okay, they were, given details, and they also have a section on the architect Elijah E. Byers. That's very interesting as well. So they start to talk about, here's the title, Furnishing the Texas Capitol. They start to talk about the grand celebration of when this Capitol back here was being opened, the grand ball, everybody's celebrating. They had fireworks, drill exercises, a parade, and a grand ball. Then it says down here, interior descriptions were lacking for quite a simple reason. No new interior furnishings were yet in place to describe. I mean, there was nothing. It was just complete shell, and nobody had really paid a whole lot of attention to where the furniture was going to be coming from. It almost sounds like it was an empty structure and they didn't know what the F to do with it in the 1880s. That's just to me. That's speculation as well. Although it was apparently well-known fact that under the terms of the 1882 contract for the construction of the building, the contractor was not required to furnish the rooms when completed, or to light the building or arrange the grounds. No attention seems to have been given to the furnishings until November 1886. 1886 is just about to be done. It's got 1 or 2 years left, and they're just starting to go, oh crap, we got to get furniture, bro. Like, I thought you were getting the furniture, dude. No? It's just, it's silly, you know. And then here's some of the inside. That's what it looks like today. Okay, and I'm about to show you another little snippet of part of that article that I was reading. So let's see. So there was a bill passed in the Senate in record time because they're trying to get this furniture, man. They forgot they're sending the bill quickly. All right, allowing the governor to sign it into law on May 17th, 1888. Okay, the celebration just happened. So they just now doing the bill to get the funds. Judging from the proximity of the celebrations of the Capitol opening May 14th to 19th to the introduction, passage, and signing of the legislation, it is not far-fetched to assume that the naked interior appearance of the building was a bit disconcerting. Yeah, I'd say. It must have been abundantly clear to all concerned that something had to be done quickly to make the Capitol habitable, but apparently not anything approaching grand since the legislators had reduced by one half the initial appropriation recommended in 1887. So, the legislation did talk about it, and they had a sum, and they reduced the sum to do the furnishings, but then it didn't get actually passed again until it was already done. So, I mean, it's just so crazy. They build this thing, and then it's a naked interior for,
Yeah, it's like, hey, we have the resources to build this incredible building that we, by our own description, is grand. And it's all immaculate inside. You've got carvings and paintings and things inscribed into the ceiling that are just like amazing. Everything's amazing, but I don't know if we have the resources to put furniture in there
furniture.
to make it
Yeah.
not look empty.
Yeah, we don't have enough. We're going to need to reduce it, and you'll see, in 1888 they actually reduce it again when they actually are getting it passed. But let's look at the actual photos. So these photos of the inside are like 10 years later, 20 years later. So we're talking about 1890s, end of the 1890s, and then in the early 20th century. So these are the photos that I've found. Look at these random rugs just running across the room. Like it doesn't fit. The rugs are placed perfectly, right? I mean, what are these rugs doing here? It almost like how they set up the grand palace that they built doesn't speak to them building it. It seems like they're trying to blend in it, but it's not working. I mean, I you
Yeah,
know I don't know why these rugs would be in the Capitol building like that. Do you?
yeah. No, no idea. But it's like just looking at these things. It's almost like they're trying to say, "Hey, we did do this. This is us. We did this."
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. But now that we look at it in the future, much later, it's like I don't know. And there's this one too. Let's look at this picture. Uh-oh. I don't know what froze, but okay. Let's do this one. Look at these guys. They're just sitting in the stairwell with a chair, just kind of chilling. Like, uh, yeah, as I said at the bottom, this is my all-time favorite photo. Like, what are y'all doing? And why do y'all have like? Isn't there a million rooms in that place? And you know, I mean, and then even the storage in the basement. This is the storage, an area of the Capitol grounds floor serving as a storage location, 1911. What are y'all storing like this in that temple, that palace that y'all just built? Why does it look like this? You know,
Yeah,
it's wild. It's wild. Let's see, where's So yeah, they reduce the money, and then they start to complain about how silly it is that they're reducing the money. It seems to be very necessary appropriation for a most obvious purpose. It is foolish to argue that the amount is too large for the furnishings. This capital will not only be the pride of the state of Texas, but it of this country, and it is only met and proper that it should be furnished in a manner somewhat in conformity with the grandeur and magnificence of its appearance. Yes, we agree. If a wealthy man were to spend a large sum in erecting a dwelling and then were to furnish it in a style no better than the adopted by a poor man, what would be the opinion of such anyone? Just the discussions are really for me really show that these people that were inhabiting this capital right off the bat don't fit.
Yeah,
It just don't fit. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
For this to be an editorial in the newspaper at the time, it's like they're in over their head, over
Yes,
their heads, and they're trying to make a public call to action, do something about it. They at least look the part.
right, exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah, and then they start to discuss about they're complaining about who got draperies and who didn't, right? It is difficult to understand why the comptroller and director of the Department of Education would have received draperies in their private rooms while the legislative leaders, Secretary of State, Supreme Court Justice, Treasurer, and Attorney General were all denied this amenity. They're like pissed off that other people got draperies and they didn't, some of the
Yeah,
main players. And then it starts to talk about nine on the fourth floor. There's 9 halls, 13 rooms, not assigned to any departments. Okay, so there's a lot of empty space in this building. They don't really know how to fill it. And this photo kind of shows how I mean, you got a horse and somebody feeding their horse. Hey, open field. Then these kind of scary women over here in white dresses, these houses even too. It's just
yeah,
a very odd setting. Very odd
yeah.
setting.
Definitely, and looking at those houses over there on the right, and then the state buildings, like none of this makes any sense.
It don't fit, dude. It don't fit. Yeah. And the rest of Austin, we can just chop it up now, if you want to, or we can end it. It's up to you. But what do you think?
So I definitely think this is great. I think it's great that I think the interest is there. I say let's chop it up and do a part two on this.
Please, please.
Let's
Yes,
come
yeah. I
back
mean, I
and
got yeah.
yeah, make some more sense out of this. 'Cause I think definitely this is great for people to start digging to know. Hey, go over here, check out this the Luminary Lighthouse platform on all all the channels that you're on YouTube,
Facts.
TikTok, you say Instagram as well, Instagram,
Yes, sir.
Facebook. You got a ton of videos on there, right? On YouTube as well. You
On
know,
YouTube as well. Yep.
it's the same type of information, and not just Texas, but all over the country, right? So
Everywhere.
yeah, definitely, man, this is great. Let's come back and revisit it. I think you're doing a great job sharing this info, and I think you're making it obvious.
Yes,
It's
sir.
plain to see. Yeah, so
Thank you, bud.
yeah, definitely appreciate you coming on here and doing this. This is great. Um, Before we close out, though, if there's anything that you would like to speak on, anything that you would like to share, please feel free. You have the floor. Please feel free to share anything.
Okay. Yeah. So can I stop screen sharing? I guess. Yeah, like that.
Yeah,
Did I do that? Okay. Yeah, no, I just appreciate it, man. Like I said, I haven't done these presentations in a long time. The flow is, I'm trying to get my flow. It's like with my videos, like if you go to my older videos and look at them, the flow's not there. I just can't, like I can't get my footing underneath me. So I appreciate you letting me come on here and just kind of, you know, um, just get it all out, of what's up in my head because it'll get better and better and the flow will get better and better and I felt like I got my information out. I hope people enjoyed it and liked it. Would love to come back on and talk about another topic, and if y'all would like to you know look on my social media pages and see a video that you would like to hear more about, let us know. let us know, and I'll come back on, and would love to have you on my YouTube page too. I really appreciate you letting me do this, man.
Oh yeah, thanks. I appreciate the offer. Definitely, just let me know when I'll be on there. Whatever you want to talk about, and really, I think it's great just to to put these out there because you never know. Like somebody who's watching this may be a school teacher. May just
Yeah,
anything that helps to change the narrative because it's not going to happen if we don't do it right?
yeah,
No, we can't depend on anyone that's in power politically or anything like that to do anything. We have to get the truth out there, and so yeah, I just wanted to thank you again for coming on here and doing this,
yeah,
and
bro.
yeah, I appreciate you. Everybody, like and share this video, but also go over, use the links in the description to go over to his platform as well, and to subscribe to him, and just thank you all. Thanks to you again for coming
Yeah,
on,
bro.
and yeah, we'll do this again, and also yeah, come over to your platform and do this as well.
Please,
All
please,
right,
please. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, brother.
all right, this is great. So and also everybody, make sure to check out the videos after this to support this channel, and I want to thank everybody again. Peace.
Every day, billions of searches are conducted online, therefore it is critical that your company stands out to the small percentage of clients who are essential to your business. Our team of local digital marketing consultants and SEO experts is eager to help your company achieve its goals through a consultative approach, top Google rankings, and collaboration with industry experts. Here at Adept Marketing Solutions, we stand for integrity, dedication, ingenuity, and results. We know how to navigate the ever-changing digital landscape and what brands must do to succeed. Visit our website to see what we can do to help you reach your goals.
Don't let your history start at slavery. Join with Moorish Science Temple, a lawfully chartered Islamic organization, and proclaim your nationality while helping us uplift fallen humanity. Founded by American prophet Noble Drew Ali and consistently promoted plans for the betterment of humankind. We are located in Columbus, Ohio. Visit our website www.moorishamericans.com and follow us on social media. We hold live meetings on Zoom every Friday and Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Give us a call at 614-407-4394 if you would like to join or send donations to help us uplift fallen humanity.
Highest quality handmade fezzes. Crafted fez with the finest wool, complete with tassel and leather sweatband. Wear the national headdress of Moorish Americans with pride and respect. 3XL size fez is a comfortable fit for brothers with dreadlocks. Shipping worldwide. Go to moorishfez.com to order.
Unlock the Keys, a powerful guide to Moorish identity, divine law, and self-mastery. Praised by sheiks and scholars alike, and Moors across the nation are calling it a must-read. Grab your signed copy now at morrisonaamerica.com for just $23. Or get the paperback on Amazon, also $23. Prefer digital? The Kindle version is only $3.99.
Hey, real quick, just want to tell everybody to go over to moresinamerica.com. Go over to the new website. It's just debuted, new design, new features on here. You can now create an account on there to log in. You can access the new parts of the website that weren't available before. It was just a blog, but now we'll have a forum on there, video sharing, all types of new options. So make sure you go in there and create an account. If you haven't done so already, go to the shop, get a copy of the new book, Unlocking the Keys. It's basically a self-help guide from a Moorish American perspective, Moorish American Muslim perspective. Awesome book, over 400 pages long, and it's all keyed in on helping you pull out the highest capabilities that we all have within us. And also the new book, the Divine Blueprint, will be coming out this summer. That will be available here. I'm gonna have a lot more on this shop, but definitely make sure you go to moresinamerica.com, create an account on there. All right. Just wanted to share that with everybody, and we are out. Thank you all for tuning in. Peace.